I think like trust is such a key piece of that relationship between marketing agency and customer. If you mismanage a budget, you break that trust.
Welcome to What Gets Measured, a NinjaCat podcast about marketing performance management, metrics, and effectiveness. Because what gets measured gets managed. I'm your host, Jake Sanders. Dominic Albano is a senior software engineer, and Tyler Johola is a senior account executive at Shape Integrated Software, a PPC budget monitoring platform recently acquired by NinjaCat that helps clients take control of their digital advertising spend. Dominic is a mechanical engineer turned software engineer with decades of experience in the space, and Tyler is a former PPC analyst who now focuses on business development. And they're here today to talk about managing and monitoring marketing budgets. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Big Jake.
Yes, thank you for having us. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for showing up. So let's just kind of go into story mode. Like, give us a rundown of Shape. What was the history and reasoning behind launching this platform?
Yeah, I'll dive in. This is Tyler. Our founding team came from a digital marketing agency. We had tested out a number of different softwares in the industry to try to help us manage, spend, track budgets, pace out properly, but primarily eliminate overspend. When we had campaigns going across Google, Bing, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and we had trouble tracking all those using spreadsheets, attempting to use different softwares. We had an email copy ready to send an email to the client saying, hey, we accidentally overspent by $134. Here's why it's not that big a deal. We're very sorry. We're going to cover the cost with, things along those lines. And we just noticed as we were testing every software available at that time, there was nothing that could really track budgets properly, give you that sort of cross-channel management and allow for that overspend control. So that was the initial idea, was if it's not out there, if we can't find it, why don't we just build it? We were able to sync up with some of our developer friends here, and we started the company in pretty much 2014. But that's my end from the user standpoint. Dominic, I don't know if you have a different answer there.
Yeah, I think that's a good insight to sort of the roots of things. Really, most of the team did come from that marketing agency. So we were very much boots on the ground. We were dealing with these problems firsthand, having trouble scaling digital advertising in a marketing agency. So it was born out of those problems, and we aimed to build a company that provided a solution to those problems. That was really the impetus of it.
And it really does, like a lot of great products and services come from no one's doing this. And it seems like such an important aspect of a marketing agency that you'd want to maybe monitor the budget, see how that's going. But a lot of people put the tactical, cart, before the strategic horse. And really it all comes down to budgets. I mean, in marketing, the budget tends to be the most critical factor when it comes to strategy and defining what's possible or probable. What do you guys think marketers misunderstand about budgets?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's really one of those things where it doesn't take a whole lot of mental expertise. It doesn't take a whole lot of know-how or experience to manage budgets. It just takes time and effort and vigilance. And, I didn't take a vacation for 5 years, a week-long vacation for 5 years out of fear of misspending budgets. And we just kept finding that all the other tools were taking over parts of the job that are the fun part of the job, writing ads, researching keywords, coming up with creative, communicating with clients, all this different kind of stuff. And the reason that people were using other softwares to do those jobs is because it took too much time. So if we could provide more time for that part of the job, take away the time wasted on these manual, mundane exercises that take zero expertise whatsoever, and not have to constantly try to catch up with Google's 500 algorithm changes a year on optimization practices and allow the analysts to just do the job themselves, then you can use a software or some sort of technology to manage those budgets. It just doesn't take the analyst's time or expertise to do so.
Well, I mean, it seems like it doesn't take an expert to do this, but why aren't marketers? Sometimes they are spending too much time on the fun stuff, maybe, and they're like, well, the creative idea is really good. Be like, we just don't have the budget, or you kind of shot yourself, in the leg, from I just think most marketers are saying, I can do all these things, but they don't pay attention to the budget until it's too late. And then they're like, okay, you got to pack your stuff, marketer. You didn't do it for us. I mean, like, is it
Yeah.
also that budgets are tracked to performance and marketers miss that up front? Or like it's all great in the beginning, when the money's there, but when the money's gone, uh-oh.
Right. I think like trust is such a key piece of that relationship between marketing agency and customer. If you mismanage a budget, you break that trust in something that sometimes is easy, but when it goes wrong, it can go off the rails. I think, honestly, there are a lot of marketers out there that are good managers of budgets, that are experts in this space, that really pay attention to this changing and dynamic landscape. New networks coming online, grabbing market share or losing market share, and then even the networks themselves changing how they advertise or display to customers, algorithms changing. So they're staying on top of that. But there's the other side of that coin. It's such a dynamic market that it can be challenging to stay on top of that. What's the nuances? What's the difference between a daily budget in Google and a daily budget in LinkedIn? Some of the limits with those things, how Google can sort of overclock daily budgets, things like that, or the differences between impression share between two search networks. The devil is in the details. And if you don't pay attention to that stuff, it makes managing a budget much more difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming from a strategy place, I mean, like, isn't part of the budget defining what the strategy is? I mean, if you don't have a budget, you can dream big, but you need to put a ceiling and a floor on those things. I mean, what do you guys think about like budget pacing as a strategic, element? Like I mean, of course it's critical, but have you come across places where strategy and budget are hanging out?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's really tricky to come up with at the onset of a campaign. Figuring out what the budget is. A, it
Right.
depends on what your customer's budget is going to be, and then B, it depends on what the available impressions are going to be. If you're advertising across Google and Bing and Facebook and getting onto the other social platforms out there, then you really kind of need to come up with something initially, have an agreement with the client or with the customer, spend that, and then figure out, okay, are we leaving a lot of impressions on the table? That's
Mhm.
why we built one of our features that can analyze potential impressions. So if you do need to increase budgets and give recommendations on the potential spend without having to change strategy, expand targeting, anything along those lines, you can do so. And so it is, definitely teaming up with the customer, figuring out what the strategy is, trying to figure out what the potential impressions are going to be for that strategy, and then managing the budget properly so that you don't run out of it 20 days into the month and they're paused for 10, and that causes, its own set of issues.
Yeah,
Right.
nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that until it's too late, and you're like, okay, we'll just nice ads. Why don't you hold on to them for 10 days?
Right.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
speaking more towards this, like, I mean, one of the better things is tracking the budget. You can get more of it. Like, how does proper monitoring and tracking of a budget help in securing a bigger budget?
That's, a great question. It's really a matter of spending the agreed upon amount and then being able to look at performance after a handful of days. A week, is probably the bare minimum you'd want to have enough data for. And then basically come back to the client and say, listen, we can increase our spend and we are going to be able to match the same CPA. We're going to be able to get more conversions, but we're not going to have to pay more for them. And kind of coming up with that plan together, after you actually see what's going on, because you're guessing a little bit, to a degree until you start actually advertising.
True.
That's
I
crazy.
think,
That go ahead, Tom.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I think there's kind of two important pieces to that budget monitoring, budget tracking and pacing thing. One of them is hitting the agreed upon targets, not underspending that budget and not overspending that budget. That's the trust piece. If you mess that up, you're not going to be spending any money for that client next month. So retaining that customer is really a key piece. And then, kind of as Tyler mentioned, we've really seen the industry focus on pacing more and more as the years have gone by. It's just so important. Advertisers want to stay on. They want their ads running all the time. If there's a qualified customer that's scrolling, they want to be showing for that customer. If there's someone searching for their bread and butter keywords, they want to show for those keywords. This is kind of this is kind of the theoretical side of it, but if you can keep your ads on and you can impress for those qualified candidates every day of the week, every day of the month, you're going to be driving more qualified leads. So you're going to be making an impact on ROI. You're going to have customers that are more likely to convert. So I think keeping ads on and pacing your ad spend evenly throughout the cycle or the month is critical for optimizing ROI.
And speak to ROI really quick too, because a lot of people look at ROI and they're like, if the I is low, the R is high. So like if I invest the minimum amount, I'm going to get a high ROI. Like, is there a place where budget tracking and pacing has created the thought in a client that, whoa, I have to spend more here? Because I think marketers, of course, are like, hooray, and clients are like, oh, no. But I think like they want to keep their ROI. They want to keep the investment as low as possible so the returns are as high as possible. Like the greatest ROI is when you spend no money and something happens. Like, is there a place for budget monitoring to make a case for bigger budgets? Like just like what you said, Dom, was like, and Tyler earlier saying that there's a potential addressable marketplace. You could be getting
right.
This. Budget monitoring helps unlock those things in people's minds. Or am I making an assumption?
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's a good way of putting it. And like Dom was saying, it's all about the trust, So if you start off with that kind of shotgun approach and you want to advertise on 5-6 different channels and you want to have 5 different campaigns per channel, then the tracking of that becomes very difficult. And if you say, oh, well, we did overspend, but honestly, that's because we were on 6 different channels. We're really trying to figure out which one works best and so forth. Well, you're kind of losing trust either way on that. And you want that experimentation period to not cause any friction with the client. So you want to be able to say, okay, well, we did end up spending the $10,000 of agreed spend across these different channels. We did find out that we're getting a much better return from LinkedIn. So we should probably ramp up our spend there. You didn't lose trust in saying, okay, well, positive is we figured out LinkedIn's great. Negative is we did overspend by $1,000, something along those lines. That's why the monitoring and tracking goes hand in hand with that sort of experimental stage at the beginning.
That's great. Yeah, and just figuring out what channels are driving so you can pour money into the places that things are working. But also, to Dom's, quote, like pacing is this other idea where you can run ads for longer because it's a part of the strategy. And I think a lot of people want to change their ads daily. So you're like, well, how am I ever going to track if it works if we're changing it every 2 or 3 months, 2 or 3 weeks? You know what I mean? So there's so many amazing application processes that just the simple act of monitoring the budget can unlock, different ways to make more engaging, effective advertising campaigns, and then also tracking your ability and then understanding, whoa, we can kind of go harder here. I think it's just kind of like it's an amazing strategic underpinning. But let's speak more about stories of clients that you've worked with. What are some Cinderella stories about a client's experience with Shape? And then conversely, do you have any marketing budget like horror stories?
How much time do we have?
as long as it takes.
Dom will knock off one. I know you got a couple as well. We had one prospect who eventually became a customer, of course. And this one hit close to home. I mentioned I didn't go on a vacation for 5 years for
Right.
fear of overspending a budget. And we had a client who, was a large agency, medium to large, somewhere around 70, 80 employees. And the entire company would get the week of, from December 25th to the 31st off. The whole company was given the week off, except for one support person and all 7 pay-per-click analysts. The rest of the company had off, and they were told, "Yeah, well, obviously we can't be overspending budgets. We can't be misspending budgets. It's a weird week anyway, advertising-wise. You guys have to work, but we really appreciate it."
Thank you.
And yes, so that was one thing that we were able to come in, provide that overspend control, provide that pacing, automation, and then that was a really nice win with that client, is that they came back just immediately being like, "This was amazing. I snowboarded all weekend and I didn't have to worry about overspending once." Yeah, so
Yeah, that's been a reoccurring theme for sure.
mhm.
I mean, ads are they don't care if it's Christmas Eve, like there's someone online, there's someone clicking ads. If you don't have automation running and controlling those things, someone's got to be at the wheel.
Yeah. I mean, do you have any other specific stories there, Dominic? I know I've got a couple for you.
Yeah, I was thinking while you were saying, I mean, we've certainly had like a lot of Cinderella stories as well. I think the company began in such a humble spot. We got really early convertible note sort of seed round funding, and we had a beta product before that, before we had any revenue. We've had some customers with us since then, and we've really like grown up with them, watched their businesses grow and thrive, and in some cases like go on to be like industry leaders in some way, at least thought leaders, speaking at marketing conferences,
right,
and things like that. So it's really cool to see and sort of be a part of some of these companies' journey. On the other side, the disasters, yeah, a lot. I think people come to us with budgeting solutions that are held together with duct tape and shoelace.
Oh, it's ugly.
Yeah, and a lot of times they come to us on a bad note, on when they have like a $10,000 hole in their balance sheet blown through this duct tape and shoelace system, and they come in distress, sort of needing a solution that's a little bit more robust. This budgeting problem has really marketing has just changed so much in the last several decades. You've had in the 60s or many years ago, you had much more reliable and predictable marketing budgets. Maybe you're running your TV spot, maybe you're running your radio ad, your newspaper ad. Those are sort of fixed, predictable costs.
right.
We don't live in that world anymore. Ads are running in real time in 10 different places online, on pay-per-click spend models. It's just, I think that caught up with a lot of marketing agencies before they were ready for it.
Yeah, and one instance we run into less these days, but certainly for a long time, a standard process for agencies was that they would plug their own credit card into Google and Bing and Facebook and so forth, and directly pay the channels for the advertising spend, and then bill their clients later, at the end of the month based on what was actually spent or what was agreed upon. And we would run into agencies who would say, "Oh yeah, well we overspent last month by $50,000, and we have to eat that cost. We don't get to bill the clients for that. We say, we're very sorry. We will take that on, and that's losing a lot of money on the balance sheet. And then suddenly our software is, a very tiny fraction of that, and we say we can immediately eliminate that $50,000 overspend and any potential for that to ever happen again, any fear for that to happen again, anything along those lines." And that's really where, if I on the sales end, I'm talking to a CFO, I go, "Well, here's a simple number. If time savings aren't doing it for you, I can give you some real cash figures here." So
the insurance analogy works sometimes.
What's that insurance analogy?
It's overspend protection. Yeah, it is, because budgets can run wild in 1,000 clicks can happen in a minute. you can be blowing through an advertising budget before, by the time you wake up next morning.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we've got hundreds of scenarios with that. Somebody accidentally put in too many decimals on, there are too many zeros on their daily budget. And so it's a $500 monthly budget and they spend 300 in the first day instead of 30 or what have you. That is something we have heard and seen many times. And that's really another thing is, hey, if you guys are running into human error, I mean, just simple fat fingering of a number, which we've all done, then Shape can definitely be an insurance policy on that too.
And it's sad that the fat fingers aren't on the other side of the digits for you. You're like, whoops, you just gave us $10 million in budget. Like, we're doing great. But
Nope.
Nope. Dom, you brought up something interesting, and I just wanted to freestyle about it with you guys. Is like, back in the day, you had a fixed marketing budget. And you said, like, here's your radio, here's your newspaper, here's your TV. And it's weird to think that those things are still happening. People are, I saw recently something in some marketing rag, but that people are going towards traditional out of home advertisements nowadays. And I think one of the things that's kind of soured the marketing industry in regards to performance analytics and all those things is that we have all the trackability in the world, but it makes us maybe more penny pinching in a way. Like back in the day, you'd said you have to run the radio ad, for 4 weeks, or whatever it is, or maybe, longer iterations, three months, 6 months. Budgets were bigger, more consistent, campaigns were stronger, longer living, and now things are real time. Creative is changing all this time. So you guys mentioned that experimental phase, which is very important on figuring out what's working. Do you think that like the proliferation of all these places where ads can go are making advertising less attractive for budgets? Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like now that I can put an ad in 1,000 different places, I'm like just putting pennies into it, whereas before I knew I had to go hard on this newspaper spread, like just, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I can take the first stab on that. It is interesting. It's really what that has developed is a need to hire a professional, right? Because you can kind of dabble yourself, and a lot of people have. I can run my own Instagram campaign or Google Ads campaign or something along those lines.
Right, just like Tyler was saying, I'll swipe my own credit card or whatever it is, right? Yeah,
exactly. But all the systems have made it more complex, mainly because they don't want anyone to be able to game the system.
Interesting.
Which is understandable. But also, because it makes it a little bit tougher to track and manage budgets, which is perfect step in on that end. But the funny thing is that, the way you say it, like there's more and more places to advertise, which is why it becomes that much more important to hire a professional, which is why it becomes that much more important to have experience when you are managing a lot of different campaigns. It's funny, I used to run into, when I was doing the job myself, conversations with different people, my parents' friends, and they'd say, "Oh, we tried to run campaigns, and I had my nephew do it. He's got a marketing degree, and it didn't work. We didn't get any return." Like,
Yep.
well,
Tale as old as
to hire a
time.
professional. Yeah, and I would always use the analogy. Okay, if your nephew is in mechanic school and he tried to build a car and the car didn't run, would you say cars don't work? No, you would, buy a real legitimate manufactured car. You would hire a professional, say, for marketing. So, yeah, it is funny. It's very important. All these different places can provide a return, but you do need to know what you're doing to run those campaigns properly.
So true.
That's true. Each one has its own area of expertise, really.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the agency's bread and butter. They become that cross-channel optimizer. They're the experts in each channel. They can funnel those ad dollars, partition budgets to where it's best utilized depending on the client.
Right.
I really think this like touches on such an interesting sea change that has happened in the industry. Never before have we been able to quantify the results of our marketing efforts in a way that we can now in the digital age.
Yeah.
this is something that we're trying to tackle now as a joint venture in a company. This creates a big data problem for agencies.
Huge.
There is so much information on each ad you're running, but it's very difficult to parse through that and find the signal amongst that noise. This is something that agencies are just now starting to tackle. How can we take advantage of this newly quantifiable information? How can we feed that back into the solution we're providing the customer? How can we provide more value with this sea of data that we've been offered? There is no clear answer. It's going to change depending on from agency to agency.
Right.
And helping these agencies solve the big data problem is going to be more and more important, because that information isn't going anywhere. It's just going to keep growing.
Yep. Great point. And good plug. For the reason why we decided to get together was we're all in the same area, desiring clients who are more confident. Like I think really that's what it is. And if I think we thought if we could just get the information, because when social media was starting, and newspapers were kind of tanking, a lot of people were saying dinosaur advertising is dead. Big TV stuff, mass media, it's gone. It's gone the way of the dodo. And we have the answer. And you say, well, what's the answer? And you're like, how many spreadsheets do you have? Because we're about to fill them all up. And then you realize, like, okay, no, you may have all these data points, but your job is to get that information, parse it out. And then, Tyler, like what you were saying, like if I'm talking to a CFO, the pitch is a little bit different. If I'm talking to a CMO, the pitch is a little bit different. But both parties need to have this financial understanding of the importance of solving the data problem, monitoring the spends, and then creating more effective campaigns and just creating more value, like Don was saying, like, get that value up. That's what we're here to do. And it is possible, but the data problem is going to be, just like you said, it's not going anywhere. It's here.
No.
So our job is in front of us. And so we've talked a lot about different ways, budget monitoring and pacing can unlock strategic insights. But if we were in a busy airport and you're sitting next to a marketer and they're just like banging their head against the laptop and they're having problems with marketing budgets, what is your I got to get on the plane, but by the way, here's my one piece of advice when it comes to marketing budgets and tech? Like what is your, I got to get on the plane, but here, advice?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, honestly, it would be, certainly you can use Shape. We have a free version of it, and just make sure you don't overspend a budget.
Tyler's always selling.
I'm always
Stay selling.
But I mean, it does speak to the fact that the second one thing goes wrong, you start freaking out and getting less confident and so forth. And if you do happen to overspend a budget, if you do happen to overspend a day, then that can get you into this world is too difficult, it's too complicated, and so forth. But honestly, it's really do as much research as you can, understand your end customer as best you can, and then try to approach your strategy from that angle. And start with the pyramid approach, which we always figured in the PPC world. You want to get really specific at the top, very, very specific. I'm looking for red leather shoes with laces, very specific. And then spend a little bit more on red leather shoes, and then just red shoes, and then just shoes, and so forth. So start at the top of the pyramid and then start to expand.
God, I love that.
That's really good advice.
Geez. I mean, what are you going to go after that or what? What's yours?
I think, Tyler brings he's got so much more experience actually running campaigns. And I think that is really good advice. Proper budget management is really knowing your audience, knowing how to set campaign settings to target that audience. That stuff is so important. I'd come at it, I'll bring a different angle. I'm the engineer. Automate. If you're having budget problems in an agency, you're not going to be able to scale that agency or manage advertisements in 10 different places for 100 different clients without some kind of automation. you're going to be working Christmas Eve, if you can't find an automated solution. So definitely you seek a solution, right? We have provided general purpose tools for agencies to be able to come in and automate this stuff themselves. I'll sell too. Come in, sign up for Shape. You don't need to put in a credit card. Come in, fire it up, build a budget, see if it works.
Love it, Dom.
Find a way to automate. And if your agency isn't doing, doesn't have engineering resources, there are software solutions, but to the data problem, you're going to want to start investing in engineering resources.
Yeah.
It's an insane conclusion that makes so much sense. If you want to operate at a higher level, you need to create the processes in which you're not handcrafting. Like if you want to franchise your pie dealership, you can't be the main person making the pie. You need to teach people how the pie's made and create an automated process, like a turnkey kind of approach to this. And with proper budget monitoring and performance management, in place, you can really grow. Like, and without that, what are you doing? What are they doing? Shaking my hand. Come on, people, get with it. So, you guys, thank you so much for your time. Like you've given us a lot to think about, resources that you can connect to, reasons that you would use such a thing, and really a compelling pitch for creating a scalable solution to get at that data problem, because that's really what it all comes down to. But if people want to find out more and they want to connect with you online, where can they find you individually?
Yeah. I mean, certainly check out our website. Dominic designed the entire front end website. It's a really helpful resource. We got tons of good pages about our different features if you want to take a look at those. And that is shape, SHAPE.io. That's certainly a great place to do so. You can always reach me if you want to shoot me an email, ask any questions. Always happy to engage. And that's just Tyler@shape.io, BYLER. Easy places to contact and find me.
Cool. Yeah. My online presence I'm working on it every day. But I think the best place to follow my work is probably our blog, which is shape.io/blog. Yes, I'm a software engineer, but we've got hats in many places. So, my thoughts and thinkings on this industry are reflected in some of those blog posts. And that's where you can find some of that information for me.
Cheese or chocolate?
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
You ready? Cheese or chocolate?
Cheese.
Chocolate.
Whoa! What? So Tyler says cheese very emphatically. Dom, what do you think? Ooh.
Man.
Ooh.
Man, they kind of both scratch that same itch. They the umami, they light up your brain.
Right.
What would I rather have on a desert island,
A nice aged cheddar or a 88% cacao chocolate bar. Hard
one melts
to say,
in the sun, one perishes in the sun. I'm screwed on the desert island.
Well, then it's a temperate island, Dominic. Please just answer the question.
I'll take the chocolate.
Okay. So we got cheese and chocolate. All right. Next question. Marketing conference or Comic-Con?
Comic-Con.
I'm a nonfiction guy, so I'll take the marketing conference.
Oh, I love this. We are getting to so much deep truths here in this interview. Okay, next, breakfast buffet or lunch buffet?
Oh, breakfast all day.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm gonna have my juices. I'm gonna have my eggs. I'm gonna have my cinnamon rolls, my sweets. Yeah.
The waffle iron.
I'll take all three meats: ham, bacon, sausage.
Yep.
It'd be nice to have a pacing software for a buffet, because I think we all would need that. You'd be like, whoa. You're over serving yourself. No such thing. Okay.
No.
Next question. Regret or doubt?
Ooh.
Dang, that's a heavy.
I'm probably more on the doubt side. Yeah. I think I go a little more ahead of time than after, never broken a bone, that type of thing. Don't.
Could you have broken a
Bill?
bone? I don't know.
No, man.
What do you
I
think,
guess-
Dom? Regret or doubt?
Well, no regrets. It's got to be doubt.
Got to be doubt. Are you sure? No, too late.
Yeah.
Next question. That was funny. That worked out really well. Country music or classical?
Classical for me. Country is my one genre that I am not huge into. It's big where we live here, so and classical, sure. That's my reading and writing type music. Classical and jazz, non-lyrical.
Super
Can't go
classic.
wrong with Bach. But I got to stick with my roots. I'm a country boy, so I'm going to take the country music.
Wow. This is so great. People follow Dominic and Tyler because this relationship is crazy. It's different things. It's cheese. It's chocolate. Finally, the last question. Watch sports or play sports?
I mean, now that is where I'm going to have a hard time. So I like both quite a bit. I watch a lot of sports. I also do like to play a lot of golf. If you factor that in as a sport, then yeah. I got to say both. I can't pick.
You have to kappa. Tyler,
all right.
Pick one.
Then play. Then I will play the sport.
All right.
Well, I did have a day where I played the sports, but I'm a little over the hill now. So, I'm not.
Listener, I want you to know Dominic is not over the hill. This is a young, vibrant man in front of me. Okay, so just know that.
I'm not gonna put myself in the shoes I can't fill. So I'll take watch sports.
Safe bet.
What Gets Measured is a NinjaCat podcast. Please rate and review the show wherever you find your podcasts. Share this episode on social and visit us on the web at ninjacat.io.